have a very special guest with us. It is Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri. Mr. Puri, welcome to ET Now. Thank you for taking the time out on a busy day like today. So Budget 2022 has got a big thumbs up from the stock markets for all the noise that is being made about infrastructure, and in fact more than noise, walking the talk, a 35% increase as far as capex goes. Sir, there was a lot that was said, of course, about housing too, a portfolio that comes directly under you. What is this going to mean for the real estate sector? What is it going to mean for affordable housing in this country?
Well, first of all, Nayantara ji, thank you for having me on your show. Let me start by telling you that the feel-good started the minute she started speaking. But, you know, some of the main points which are captured, last month's GST earnings were 1,41,000 crores. Wow. You know where we started on GST. You remember all the problems. But for 1 month figure to be at 1,41,000 crores, the highest ever, that's one. Capital expenditure, which you just mentioned, going up from 5.5 lakh crores to 7.5 lakh crores and a 35% increase. Well, I don't want to go into small details, but they're very impressive. Both for the Grameen and the urban sector, 80 lakh houses to be done in 2022-23, for which a 48,000 crore sum has been allocated. For the urban sector, actually, it's 28,000 crores. Well, look, whenever there's capital expenditure, it results in not only immediate but medium-term, long-term economic growth. Housing is doing very well. I mean, we had a situation earlier, and you talked about affordable housing. I've always said affordable housing is the flavor of the season when I started. But, you know, we've sanctioned 1 crore 14 lakh units for the urban Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. But affordable housing takes place even after that. I mean, it takes place in the private sector. People provide loans, the private sector in it. Over and above all this, please remember, real estate is beginning to look good. Some of the states are doing exceptionally well. In some areas, there are residual problems, which are legacy issues in the area around Delhi. But I'm sure slowly we're getting those sorted out as well. I'm very bullish in terms of the overall budget. It's got a thumbs up everywhere. You mentioned the stock exchange. Of course, there are some political leaders who are still bemoaning the fact that it's a very successful budget. I don't want to name two I was asked about on a show that I was on earlier. But I think there's a lot of feel good about this. It's forward looking. It's a visionary budget.
Budget is how you're describing it, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it at all, Mr. Hardeep Puri, because the numbers will also speak for themselves, and as they have after the last union budget. But it is my job to play devil's advocate. So you're right, we've seen GST record collections for 4 months in a row, in fact, more than 1 lakh crore rupees. There is tax buoyancy, which has allowed the central exchequer to loosen the purse strings and announce a lot of 7 growth engines, infrastructure plans. But for the common man, at a time when inflation is going up, and like I said, I'm going to play devil's advocate, no tax cuts, nothing to rein in inflation either.
Madam, let me put it this way. I like the fact that you sometimes play devil's advocate. I also like to play devil's advocate. You know, if you brought the income tax levels already down, how much more down do you want to take them? Who is the common man? The common man is the person who for 80 crore and more common men got 3 times rations in a day for an extended period, which is going to go on till March. Who is the common man? The common man is the person who got the free vaccine, and we have distributed 172 crore vaccine doses. Who is the common man? The common man is the person who is getting the free Ujjwala cylinders. And during the pandemic, 3 refills were given. So I think we tend to do what I call definition hopping or shopping sometimes. I think this budget is all about those people. This budget reaches out to the farthest, to the weakest element, and also is designed for growth. Because today we have come out of the pandemic syndrome. We are not out of the pandemic, but remember what happened last year, where we were. Today we can say with confidence that we have restructured ourselves, and today the fact that you are registering a 9.2% rate of growth for the fiscal year ending March, and you are confident about 8.5%, 8 or 8.5% going forward, that is the growth which comes down. When you do Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, how much steel do you consume? How much cement do you consume? Does it result in employment? When we build infrastructure project, and I think that the crowning glory of that is a 35% increase in capital expenditure. That is what the common man is all about.
Oh, absolutely. There's no denying it. As soon as a 35% increase in capital expenditure came out, we saw the enthusiasm in the stock markets as well. The way, steel prices shot up, the way the banking stocks also went up. And there's no denying that there is certainly enthusiasm on ground when it comes to that higher expenditure. But Hardeep Singh Puri, sir, you will have the unenviable task of making sure that our import bill doesn't go out of control, that the fisc stays in control because of the other hat you wear, which is of the Union Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas. Of course, we can't do much about it, but globally prices are going up when it comes to crude oil. So going beyond the budget, or can I put it this way, a missed opportunity maybe to give the same common man relief when it comes to petrol, diesel prices, the same common man who is having to pay lifetime high prices.
I would have been disappointed if you had not asked that question, because this is a question I was waiting for. Look, the budget is not designed to deal with global points of tension, exacerbation of tension in the South China Sea or somewhere in Eastern Europe. The budget is designed to deal with your own management, your revenue and your expenditure. Now, what have we done? We don't need to do it through the budget. We have taken concrete steps to increase the area under exploration and production from the 7 to 8% of our total area to 15% in 4 years' time, or 3 years, 4 or 5 years' time, to 30% in about 10 years' time. We are increasing the fuel blending, which was difficult to achieve 5% in 2005 and 6. We have already achieved 9% yesterday. We will have 20% ethanol blending. Earlier it was the target was 2030. We have brought it to 2025. We are acquiring more assets. We are ensuring that our ability to insulate ourselves and not remain vulnerable to global development, that is enhanced. And that is what we will succeed in doing. As for unenviable position, well, I've been placed in quite a few. You had discussions with me on civil aviation when I was there, just now on Central Vista. Well, that, I think, as long as you have a leader like Mr. Modi, who's willing to take tough, bold decisions and has a far-sighted vision, the rest of us fall in line and we are able to ensure. Yes, we have already initiated action to see what we can do. We can reach out to the producing countries, see what diplomatic margin of persuasion we have. We can talk to the consuming countries. We can take indigenous steps. Make sure that the assets, where we have them, all right, that those are extracted and used for the national effort. I'm positive that in a few months' time, you will see the concrete results of the efforts that we put in the last few months.
So cutting excise duty on petrol and diesel is very much an indigenous step. But, the fact is we did see the government announce a cut around this era.
But
so
we took it.
If later on, if prices continue to rise, if the Central Exchequer will make a similar announcement. Mr. Hardeep Puri, since you brought up civil aviation, you were, of course, in charge of that. And, you kind of oversaw the way Air India was divested, privatized. The Maharaja's gone back home to the Tatas. Now, when you're at the Petroleum Ministry, BPCL has to be privatized. The union budget has given a target of 65,000 crores. Some people believe it's far too conservative given where the stock markets are. Any updates you can give us or your views as far as this disinvestment target goes?
No, all I can tell you is that disinvestment is very much a priority, that the figures which are cited for the year's target, you can take your view whether it's conservative or realistic or etc. But I think the government has demonstrated, certainly Modi ji's government, that when we say something, we're able to do it. Attempts were made to privatize Air India many times earlier. But, I can tell you, from the time that I joined to the time it was disinvested in my successor's time, We had done most of the work, but we were very clear it had to be done. So far also, I saw another entity disinvested today. I saw the announcement on that. And BPCL, yes, we are on target. We will achieve this. And you know, there is something about the buzz which goes around. If you get one right and then a second one which we got today, then people start saying, why these guys are going to actually do it. I am 100% sure that whatever targets have been set will be achieved.
Mr. Puri, this is going to be my final question to you. It's all happening live here as we speak. The chairperson of the CBDT and the CBIC are also getting mic'd up for an interview. But Mr. Puri, you know, we ran the budget speech on word cloud, and the three most common words in the finance minister's speech today were growth, investment, and infrastructure. My final question to you is that what is the larger message that is being sent out? There was so much that was being said this budget would be about populism as 5 big states go into elections, more states are going in for elections, and of course you've got the general elections in 2 years.
Well, I can only share with you that the kind of anticipation that this would be a populist budget and so and so, I don't think people realize that decision-making at the level of the Prime Minister and the senior management here is done on a very professional and sound basis. When you have a capex increase of 35.3 or 4%, take it to 7.5 lakh crores, when you are talking in terms of additional infrastructure spending, it's all about growth. This is about growth. You increase the size of the cake, you increase the size of the kitty, the welfare benefits will go down. But at the same time, the requirements of the economically weaker section and the lower income groups have not been jeopardized. As I told you, look at what was happened. More money was put into the farmer's pocket. Urea subsidy has gone up. Agricultural credit has gone up, the provisioning for that. And more than that, you know, if you look at what kind of record procurement prices on MSP, on other things, both exceeded targets and exceeded expectation. I think this is very much a growth budget. It will provide the contours, the shape for the next 10 years out of the 25 which we are beginning to prepare for.
10 of the 25 years that you're preparing for. I like that, Mr. Puri. You've already announced the winner for so many
years. Yeah, because it is India at 100.
A pleasure talking
it is
to
India
you.
at 100.
Thank you so much for joining us here. India at 100. Thank you so much for joining us live today here on Union Budget Day and for sharing your views and being so candid, sir.